بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق وأعز المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين، سيما بقية الله روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء. قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذ قال لقمان لابنه وهو يعظه يا بني لا تشرك بالله إن الشرك لظلم عظيم. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Dear mu'minin and mu'minat, brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jumu'ah Mubarakah on everyone. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us and guide us to be amongst those who purify, reflect, and seek the opportunity or seize the opportunity of Jumu'at or Fridays as divine stations for return to Him, and therefore purify and return to Him, inshaAllah. In the Islamic calendar, based on the moon sighting, tomorrow will be the first day of the month of Jumadi al-Ula or Jumadi al-Awwal. And this month has a very sad occasion in the history of Islam, early history of Islam, which is the martyrdom of Sayyidatu Nisa al-Alameen, Fatimah al-Zahra, Salamullah alayha. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Based on the two famous narrations, although there are other dates suggested, but based on the two famous narrations, it was on the 13th of Jumad al-Ula or the 3rd of Jumad al-Ukhra or al-Thani. And therefore they are commemorated, and mu'mineen and mu'minats, believers, lovers of the Prophet and his progeny, they remember his family in every possible occasion, and especially those two dates for the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I encourage mu'mineen and mu'minat to ensure that they participate in these commemorations at their best, basically do their best and participate in every possible way, whether it be providing for the programs or reciting or helping, assisting, volunteering, inviting others to these programs, as we would do when we have some gatherings in our own homes, at our own houses and with our own families. When we invite more aggressively and in fact more enthusiastically when we invite to God and to the Messenger of God and to the purified progeny of the Messenger of God, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhim ajma'een. Some of you perhaps celebrated and got together as families and had the Thanksgiving dinner that some are accustomed to, which is in itself no harm, though if we treat it as a religious ritual, it becomes a problem. And sometimes people feel like it's an obligation. You have to eat turkey on this day. If you don't, there's something wrong. If you treat it in that manner, there's definitely a problem. That becomes in itself bid'ah or innovation. And inshallah, none of us are victims of that. Inshallah, nobody does treat it in that way. However, the reason why I want to, in fact, address this are two things. One is, it's a great opportunity to get together as families. Islam encourages that. There's no harm in getting together as families and eating together, and perhaps the title Thanksgiving, thanking God, and using that opportunity to thank God for all the blessings that He has bestowed upon us. This is a great thing to do in itself. Nonetheless, to place more emphasis, and this is what I want us to remember and basically be aware of, to place more emphasis on dates or occasions that are not necessarily religious occasions, then our religious occasions, that becomes a problem. Again, there's no harm to participate and to give thanks to God, come together as a family. That's not only no harm, that's actually very positive and very, very good. And even wishing others in the community or in our neighborhood or in our society, wishing them, happy Thanksgiving and so on. In itself, that there's no harm itself. In fact, it is positive to do that. It is good to be positive with our neighbors and our community members and in our society. Create that positive theme and mood, which is a brilliant thing. It's a great thing to do. Nonetheless, let us not get so preoccupied doing that and therefore neglecting our religious calendar and our Islamic calendar and occasions, to the point that it seems that to some it is more significant to have that gathering than some of our Islamic calendar gatherings and occasions, and we invite and place more emphasis on those gatherings than when we invite and feed and perhaps hold high the events and the occasions in our Islamic calendar. That's when it becomes a problem. And that is a problem that is a product of our, perhaps generally, a product of our naiveness in how we treat different things around us in our environment. We could be positive influence in our environment, or we could be simply a product of our environment where we don't have any influence on our environment, regardless of whether it's positive or negative. And that itself is a problem, because in the end of the day, if you're in some sort of a trade, business, you are surrounded by people who are mostly materialistic people. Mostly people who are not aware of God or not alert. They're living in ghafla, what we call ghafla. And therefore they are more focused on just, the numbers and, increasing in numbers. Quran says, Alhaakumut takathur. You're busy in just increasing in numbers. You'll be surrounded by people of that nature. Quran often tells us that majority of people, following majority, sometimes people think it's a positive thing. No, actually, you have to be very careful when doing so. Majority of people, Quran says, don't know. أكثر الناس لا يعلمون لا يعقلون. They don't comprehend, they don't know. Most people are in fact in غفلة. اقترب للناس حسابهم وهم في غفلة معرضون. That the time of reckoning is coming closer, yet people are in slumber. They're turning away from the reminders of God. Most people are like that. If we're not going to be positive influence to our environment and our society, if we're going to be simply, influenced and a sponge that takes everything that's around it and not the type of material that's solid, that gives rather than taking, If we become simply affected by our environment, then eventually we'll become a part of people who are in slumber, who are asleep. And this is why in the Islamic calendar, we have events remembering people who were never asleep, who were fully aware, who were fully alert. The prophets of God and their successors, specifically the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, displayed the most alert and awake individuals who were not willing to simply follow the trends in their society. Rather, they were capable and willing to stand up against any wrongdoing and wrong things that are happening in their society. Even if that cost them their own lives and cost them the lives of their family members and cost them hardship and difficulty and migration, whatever it cost them, they were willing to endure that in order to make sure that they change. And they change not only themselves, they change their environment, they change their society, and they become catalysts of change in humanity. This is when we remember someone like Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha. The trend went in a certain way, she stood against it. No matter what, she was willing to stand against it and speak against it, and came out of her comfort zone as a lady who was so chaste and so modest. She would not want to come out to the masjid and speak to the people. But when she saw that it's necessary for her to do that, she came out and did that, and spoke out, and gave a sermon after sermon, so that she is able to change her environment to the better, change humanity to the better. I often tell people, in one of the traditions that, the title Thanksgiving, don't get me wrong, beautiful title. But the actions seem to be, besides the gatherings, family get-together, seems to be all about us, individualism, okay? Rather than giving. It's called what? Thanks? Giving. And it's remembering a people who gave. It's based on the fact that the farmers at their time gave to the settlers. Shared their harvest with the settlers and enabled them to survive, in fact. That is, in fact, what it is based on. Now, true or false, that's not my prerogative. I'm not a historian and I'm not an expert on the matter, but it's based on a beautiful thing, which is to give others and to share what you have. But I don't see people sharing so much. I see more consumption, more consumerism in the event. And that's what is alarming. That is what is upsetting. We become more consumers, and the big companies and big institutions utilize that and put some specials to make us feel like excited about shopping, and next day they make this big event of sales and shopping and so on, that we become more of a consumer society rather than becoming more of a giving society. The whole purpose is to give, or the name is based on giving. Ahlul Bayt salawatullah wa salamu alayhim ajma'in, the family, the purified progeny of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, displayed the best examples of giving, not simply caring for themselves. If it was for themselves, Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha is most comfortable to stay at home in her own comfort zone and not come out and speak. But she came out to speak, to give to humanity what she owes them, guidance, what she knows and God has given her. She came out to do and give the people the guidance that she had received from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Imams of Ahlul Bayt, one after the other, did that, to the point that her son Imam Hussein alayhi salam was able and was, in fact, he was put in a position that he had to give all he had, and he gave all he had. Absolutely all he had, including his own family members, including an infant child. To bring out an infant child so that he becomes the catalyst of the awakening of humanity. This is an example that we have as followers of Ahlul Bayt. Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, let us not get the equation wrong. Let us not become blind followers of our environment. Let us become leaders. Let us become the leaders of change towards positiveness, towards goodness. Again, utilize the occasions for goodness, for positivity. If Thanksgiving has a great title, come together as a community and celebrate it as a community, giving to those who don't have a family, in fact, to be around them. Become their family. Become a bigger family and give them. If the next day is a shopping day, see what you can spare and give it to those who are less fortunate, not simply to become hoarders as it is the trend in this society. We buy and stack in the garages and stack in our homes and so on. Rather than doing so, become members of the giving team, of the sharing team. We teach our children sharing is caring. It seems like it stops as we become adults. Teach them that by example, that I have spare 100,000, 10,000, 100,000, whatever your capacity is in my account. I have that. I want to make sure now I give it to those who are less fortunate and don't have that. This is what, in fact, Thanksgiving should be. This is, in fact, what Ahlul Bayt teach us. If we want to remember Ahlul Bayt and we want to take advantage of a good occasion in the calendar, that's how we take advantage of it. Rather than become blind followers and make sure we bake some turkey and poor turkeys and poor animals that did nothing to us, we have to take it out on them. It is Thanksgiving, we have to. Now where that came into the equation, I don't know. You go and research and you'll find some weird stuff. Somebody had some things that are, stashed that they wanted to get rid of and promoted the link between the occasions, and it becomes simply consumerist, blind consumerist society we sometimes become. Let us not be that. Let us be more of the leaders and leaders to change and introduce positive change in our society. We have beautiful things in our society, and we can take that to the next level and become the leaders of positive change and goodness in our society and our community. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the opportunity to reflect and learn and move forward ourselves and our community towards Him, towards goodness, towards what is best for us for the hereafter. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ صدق الله العلي العظيم. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق وأعز المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد المصطفى وعلى علي المرتضى وفاطمة الزهراء وخديجة الكبرى والحسن المجتبى والحسين الشهيد بكربلاء وعلي بن الحسين زين العابدين ومحمد بن علي الباقر وجعفر بن محمد الصادق وموسى بن جعفر الكاظم وعلي بن موسى الرضا ومحمد بن علي التقي وعلي بن محمد النقي والحسن بن علي العسكري والحجة القائم المهدي الإمام المنتظر صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين. اللهم وال من والاهم وعاد من عاداهم وانصر من نصرهم واخذل من خذلهم والعن من ظلمهم اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات تابع اللهم بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات إنك مجيب الدعوات إنك على كل شيء قدير عباد الله اتقوا الله وتزودوا فإن خير الزاد التقوى واتقوا الله لعلكم تفلحون. Dear Mu'mineen and Mu'minat, brothers and sisters, once again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jumu'ah Mubarakah upon everyone. In the second sermon, I remind myself and my brothers and sisters of the provision of taqwa, to be aware of our duty to the Almighty God and to fulfill our duty to the Almighty God in all our actions, our reactions, and our statements, what we say or even what we don't say, our silence, to make sure it is all for the sake of God. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has reminded us frequently in the Holy Quran, especially in the ayah that He commands His Messenger Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to say as a lesson for you and I, because that's what He actually is. But God is telling him, share this with people. قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Tell the people, say it, that my prayers and all my acts of worship and all my life, everything that I do in my life, and even my death, what leads to my death, how I die, all of it is for the sake of the Almighty God. Lillahi Rabbil Alameen, the Lord of the worlds. One of the in fact, important acts in the beginning of an Islamic calendar. And again, for those who want to have the balance, living in your society, take the good from your society, use it for for the betterment of your family and your community and your society, and also making sure that we don't forget that we have some great traditions and great culture, especially in our Islamic calendar. For those who want to make sure that they do that, we are again approaching a new month. According to moon sighting, because the moon was not sighted last night, the next month starts tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the first day of the new month, the new lunar month, Jumadi. On the first day of the month, there is a prayer that is recommended in the morning of that day that we should be, inshallah, performing. There is the recitation of Surah Al-Qadr in that salah, 2 rak'ah, very simple, and recitation of Surah Al-Qadr in that salah 30 times, and so on. Those of you who want details on it, inshallah, I'll share it. However, there is also fasting the first day. There's also ghusl on the first day of the month. Every lunar month, it is recommended to fast the first, the middle, and the last day of the month. These are good acts that one can perform. Those who are unable to, they can gain the goodness of that first station with charity, with sadaqat. So those who want to make sure that they take advantage of this new start and new month, as we know, the lunar months in Islam is what we go by, and the moon has a lot of effect on us, in fact. So there's a relationship and a link between what we do and when we do it in the lunar months, and not just our spirituality, but also our physical body and its the effects that itself has on our spirituality. Therefore, fasting is recommended, and other praise and so on. So those who want to take advantage of the time, they can also give charity and recite some ayat of the Holy Quran, some chapters of the Holy Quran, but recite with reflection. Again, my point, my dear brothers and sisters, is that we have a lot of great things in our books of what we call al-manak, or books of prayers and supplications, like Misbah al-Mutahajjid, like Mafatih al-Jinan, and other books that we have. We have a lot lot of great traditions and culture and great customs for different dates, and we should all be accustomed with those. We should not be neglectful of what's going on in our Islamic calendar simply because we don't live in a society that follows that calendar. We follow another calendar for our day-to-day activities, and we take what's good out of it, celebrations and so on, all well and good. And I shared with mu'mineen and mu'minat, even when it comes to the new year, it is a new year that we cannot ignore. Therefore, it is good to take advantage of that time and reflect on the previous year and make some good plans for what they call the New Year's resolutions and so on for the next year. All of that is well and good. But don't forget that we also have an Islamic calendar, and it doesn't only exist during the month of Ramadan or during the month of Muharram. Some people think the Islamic calendar only exists or act in a way that it's as if it only exists in the month of Ramadan or in the month of Muharram. The rest of the year it doesn't exist. That is not accurate or correct, and that is not the way of a believer. A believer should be aware, alert at all times of his obligations, of what is recommended, and make sure that they do all the recommendations at all times to the best of their ability. I'm not saying that you have to follow every one of them, but at least have the book in your house and take a browse in the book as the calendar moves on. Year after year we go through it. Let's be more familiar with what goes on in our calendar and what is recommended and what is good for us and what is not good for us, because believe it or not, what comes from the Prophet, which is revelation from God, is not based on trial and error. It's not based on experimental science that could be erroneous, is subject to a lot of errors sometimes. However, what comes from God and His Messenger is absolutely correct. If you make sure it's authentic, then make sure you follow that, and it would be the best for you. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the opportunity to follow His book and follow His Messenger and be amongst those who listen to what's said and follow what's best. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Sadaqallahu al-aliyyul azim.